Welcome back to Squirrels, Side Hustles, and Sippy Cups, the podcast where the ADHD is real, the tangents are educational, and the branding is somehow kind of working. I'm Donnie, your host, tattooer, 3D printer, life experimenter, and unofficial king of doing too many things at once. And today, we're talking about turning chaos into a brand. Not because I planned it that way, but because that's just what happens when you follow every side quest long enough. So, grab your emotional support beverage, maybe a sippy cup if you're driving, and let's dive headfirst into the beautiful mess of building something uniquely you.
Chaos in the backyard, coffee's gone cold. Kids in a costume, 6 years old. Business calls, ADHD brain. Laser focus, then a squirrel again. Squad hustle, sippy cups. Life's a mess, but we showing up. Tattoo ink and bedtime fights. We laugh, we cry, we live this life. Squirrel side hustles and sippy cups. Yeah, that's our jam. Buckle up. Buckle up.
All right, let's just go ahead and lay it all out on the table. If you ever looked at my resume, like really looked at it, you'd probably think you were reading a prank, like some kind of weird collage, hyperactive kid glued together during a storm because his ADHD meds wore off mid-scissors. And you wouldn't be wrong. Tattoo artist, firefighter, realtor, firearms instructor, 3D printer nerd, laser engraver, business owner, podcaster, cat wrangler, father of 8, and that's just before lunch. People ask me all the time, Donnie, how do all those things fit together? And I tell them they don't. Not at first glance. But if you zoom out and squint real hard, what looks like a chaos storm actually starts to resemble a system. It's not a clean corporate system. It's more like a Rube Goldberg machine made out of duct tape and caffeine. But hey, it works. This segment is all about realizing that your resume doesn't need to look like a staircase. It can look like a jungle gym and still get you to the top. See, I didn't sit down with a vision board at 19 and say, someday I'll be a tattooing, firefighting, child wrangling real estate agent who also teaches CPL classes and hosts a podcast. No, what actually happened is life threw things at me. Interest sparks, needs arose, people asked if I could do something, and instead of saying, I don't know how, I'd say, give me the weekend. Tattooing was always my first love. It gave me an identity, a career, a community, but it also taught me discipline. Because contrary to popular belief, tattooing isn't just some rebellious art form done by dudes in bandanas. It's precision, patience, and constantly evolving technique. You can't half-ass it. People wear your work for life, and that's pressure. And that pressure's trained me to take pride in every little detail, whether I was etching a dragon or engraving someone's grandma's recipe onto a tumbler. Then came firefighting. Yeah, it's about running into burning buildings and saving lives, but it's also about control. Control over chaos. Sound familiar? It should. It's the same core skill that helped me run a studio, that helped me balance a business and babies, that helped me de-escalate situations with a client who didn't know what they wanted after they already sat down for a 5-hour piece. Real estate came later. And real estate is where I learned that no matter what you do, people buy you before they buy the product. Nobody wants a house from a robot. They want it from someone who listens, who's real, who knows how to explain things without making them feel dumb. So I started applying those same lessons back to my other businesses. If I can walk a family through a home buying process, I can also walk a nervous client through their first tattoo, or help a student run through their first gun safety course. The point is, all these unrelated things I've done, they stack. They build on each other. I'm not a master of one. I'm a Swiss Army knife with tattoos and coffee breath. And I finally realized that is the brand. It took me a while to accept that. There was a time when I felt like a fraud because I wasn't focused on one career. You hear that your whole life, right? Pick one thing and get really good at it. But what if you're the kind of person who gets really good at 10 things? What if you can juggle chaos and somehow come out with happy clients, growing businesses, and kids who still like you most days? I stopped seeing my resume as scattered. I started seeing it as layered. Each job, each skill, each experience, it all taught me something new that improved everything else. Firefighting made me a better business owner. Tattooing taught me how to brand myself in real estate. Parenting gave me the patience of a monk and the reflexes of a caffeinated ninja. And ADHD stitched it all together with duct tape and a sense of humor. Now, here's the best part. Clients love this kind of resume. They remember it. It's unexpected. It makes them feel like they're getting more than just a service. They're getting a story. And stories are sticky. People don't brag about hiring some tattoo artist. They say, yeah, I got inked by a guy who also does real estate and he's a firefighter. Dude's got a podcast and everything. That's how you build referrals, through stories that make people feel like they found a one-of-a-kind character. So if you're listening to this and thinking your resume looks like a disaster, good. That means you've lived. That means you've adapted. That means you've got more stories than some guy who's done one thing his whole life and still hasn't figured out how to send a PDF. Your chaos is your character. Your journey is your value. Whether you're like me or totally different, whether your thing is baking and Twitch streaming or welding and poetry, the weird combination is the magic. And if someone looks at your resume and says, this doesn't make sense, good. That means it's original. All right, let's talk about branding. Not the buzzword, not the color palette, not the hire a guy on Fiverr to make a cool logo that kind of looks like a modern pirate flag stuff. Let's talk about what branding actually is. The story people remember about you when you're not in the room. Have you ever heard someone say, that guy just has a brand? What they mean is, that guy has a presence. You can feel who he is and how he talks, how he shows up, how he connects with people. That's branding. It's not Photoshop, it's personality. Now, don't get me wrong. A clean logo is nice. I like a good font. I've got a laser engraver and I've spent way too many hours making sure my designs don't look like a drunk raccoon scribbled them. But branding isn't built in Illustrator. It's built in experience, in the way people feel when they interact with you. You want to know how I learned that? I'm going to tell you. I was deep into my tattoo career years ago. I had business cards, a Facebook page, cool signage, but none of that got me clients. What did was word of mouth, stories. Someone would walk in and say, hey, my cousin said you're the guy who actually listens and doesn't make people feel dumb when they ask for a sentimental piece. Or my friend said you didn't treat her like crap when she didn't know tattoo lingo. That was the brand, not the skull logo, not the edgy name. The brand was how I treated people, the story they walked away with, the experience that stuck. Later, I'd see that same pattern in real estate. The successful agents weren't the ones with the fanciest headshots. They were the ones whose clients said things like, she made me feel like I wasn't stupid for asking 87 questions, or he actually answered his damn phone. So let's strip it down here. Your brand is what people say about you when you're not there. It's in your tone, your vibe, your values. It's in the consistency of how you show up across everything you do. If people can't describe you in one sentence, then your brand probably isn't clear yet. Now, for someone like me with ADHD and a resume that looks like I got drunk in a vocational school, it took me a while to see the through line in my own brand. I kept thinking, how the hell do I connect tattooing, firefighting, firearms instruction, and real estate? But the answer was simpler than I thought. That connection was me. I'm the guy who keeps people safe, who shows up when it matters, who can guide people through stressful situations with confidence and a little humor. That's true whether I'm helping you choose a tattoo, buy a house, or survive a fire. The story doesn't change, it just wears different hats. And once I leaned into that, everything got easier. Suddenly, I wasn't marketing separate services. I was marketing trust. I was showing people that they could count on me to be real, to care, and to know my shit. That's a powerful brand, even if it's wrapped in dad jokes and cat hair. Here's the best part. Your brand is already in you. You don't have to invent it. You don't have to build it out of thin air. You just have to notice it. Think about this. When people describe you to someone else, what do they say? Do they say you're dependable, funny, blunt, creative, a little bit chaotic, but always shows up? That is your brand voice. Now, the trick is aligning everything else around that voice. Your posts, your website, your emails, your podcast. Every piece of it should feel like you. If it feels like you're pretending to be someone else for the sake of professionalism, ditch it. Professionalism isn't about pretending, it's about consistency. You can be professional and still say hell yeah and wear Crocs. You just need to own it. I'll give you a simple exercise here. Grab a piece of paper and write down the 3 words people would use to describe working with you. Not your job titles, your vibe. For me, I would have to say honest, real, and versatile. Now build everything from that. Website copy, keep it honest. Don't overpromise. Social posts, be real. Share the behind the scenes, not just the highlight reel. Products and services, be versatile. Offer solutions that show your full range. If your brand is bold and wild, then your logo better not look like a tech startup from 2012. If your brand is chill and minimal, don't use 80 fonts and neon colors in your Instagram bio. Everything needs to feel like a handshake from you. This even applies to the small stuff. Like when I do laser engraving, I include a little card that says, made by a guy who drinks too much coffee, loves his kids, and actually cares if this turns out right. That's branding. You don't need a degree in marketing. You just need to speak like a human who gives a damn. Let your clients feel who you are in every detail. That's what builds loyalty. That's what builds community. That's what builds a brand that lasts longer than any trend or TikTok algorithm. So to sum it all up, branding is a story, not aesthetics. Your story already exists. Pay attention to what people remember about you. Consistency beats perfection. Be human, be real, be you. But turned up to 11. You are your brand, not your product, not your service, you. And if people start sharing your story, not because you asked, but because it's stuck with them, that means your brand is working. Let's get one thing straight right now. My ADHD isn't a flaw. It's not a problem. It's not something I overcame to succeed. It's the reason I do succeed. Now, don't get me wrong, it feels like a problem sometimes. Like when I've had 6 ideas before I've had breakfast, started 4 of them before lunch, forgot 2 by dinner, and spent the evening trying to remember what the hell I was supposed to be doing in the first place. But if you zoom out, if you stop looking at ADHD like a malfunction and start seeing it as an operating system, suddenly the whole machine starts making sense. Let me explain. Most of the world runs on a pretty linear model. You pick a thing, you focus on it, you grind until you're good at it, and then you stick with it. That's the normal path. ADHD brains, we laugh at that path. Then we wander off to build a treehouse out of leftover IKEA furniture, start a podcast, research the complete history of Viking rune tattoos, and somehow end up with a marketable skill nobody saw coming. We don't go straight, we side quest constantly. And that's not a weakness, it is a superpower. See, here's what most people don't realize. ADHD brains are built for exploration, for creativity, for rapid learning and hyperfocus. When something clicks with us, we don't just dabble, we devour. That's how I learned to tattoo, build a business, teach firearm safety, design logos, make podcast content, run a real estate brand, and 3D print a fidget spinner that glows in the dark. I didn't sit down and plan all that. I followed curiosity. And curiosity took me to places that hustle culture wishes it could go. Now, I've had people tell me, Donnie, you do too much. You need to focus. And I'm like, focus on what? One tiny slice of my potential? No, thank you. What they really mean is, you're not operating the way I expect successful people to operate. But guess what? I don't want average success. I want custom success. Built for my brain, not yours. ADHD gives me a few unfair advantages. Hyper focus. When I care about something, I can get into a zone so deep I forget to eat. That's not a bug, that's a damn supercharger. I've knocked out complete brand kits, built entire websites, redesigned marketing campaigns, and edited podcasts in what felt like 30-minute sprints. But it turns out to be 8 hours of time work productivity. Pattern recognition. I don't just connect dots, I connect constellations. While someone else is busy mastering one field, I'm over here cross-pollinating ideas from tattoo culture, real estate psychology, firefighter teamwork, and parenting hacks. And the result is creative problem solving that doesn't exist in a box, because I never had a box to begin with. Adaptability. ADHD made me comfortable with uncertainty. I can pivot, I can shift gears, I can burn down a project that isn't working and rebuild it better before people even realize something's wrong. That's not chaos, that's agility. Now, yeah, it does come with challenges. I lose stuff. I forget appointments if it's not written down and shouted at me by a phone alarm. I have 47 open browser tabs and a to-do list that looks like a murder board from a true crime docuseries. But here's the thing. Every brain has trade-offs. The trick is learning how to manage the weaknesses while unleashing the strengths. And once I realized that, I stopped trying to fix myself and started building systems that work with me. Here's what that looks like in my daily life. I keep a big whiteboard by my desk, not for decoration, but because visual reminders help me stay on track. I use voice memos instead of writing notes because I talk faster than I can type. I time block my day in 90-minute sprints because anything longer turns into YouTube spirals and existential dread. I keep creative tasks in the morning and admin stuff in the afternoon, when my brain's running on fumes but still wants to feel productive. I build play into my work. Fun is fuel. If a task bores me, I gamify it or delegate it. ADHD doesn't like boredom, but it thrives on challenge and novelty. So I stop fighting that and I feed it. Now let me say something to the fellow ADHD warriors listening right now, especially the ones who feel like you're failing because you can't stick to a schedule or because you keep jumping from project to project. You're not broken. You're just built differently. You weren't meant to follow the same blueprint as everyone else. You're an architect of chaos who can build cathedrals from junk if someone just gives you the room. And if you're trying to build a brand, ADHD is your competitive edge. You think faster, you create more, you feel deeply, you tell stories with energy, you surprise people. You're not forgettable. And in branding, that's everything. Don't hide your ADHD, highlight it. Make it part of your story. Let people know what it's like to run a business with a brain that doesn't shut up. Share your tools, share your wins. Share the disasters you turned into victories and be loud about it. I promise the right clients, customers, and community will love you for it. Because here's what I've learned. The more I try to be normal, the more I disappear. And the more I show up as my full, chaotic, caffeinated, squirrel-chasing self, the more people see me, trust me, choose me. That's branding. That's authenticity. That's how you build a business that actually feels like you. So yeah, my ADHD is part of my brand. Not in spite of my success, but because of it. It's the engine behind every side hustle, every pivot, every ridiculous late night idea that turned into a paycheck, and I wouldn't trade it for anything. Let's talk about something I didn't even realize I was doing until I was way too late in the game. Stacking skills. Not learning stuff, not adding to the resume, but actually combining seemingly random abilities into something that makes people go, wait, how the hell do you do all of that? This isn't about being a jack of all trades. This isn't about being a force of nature who takes tools from different worlds, sharpens them, and then uses them all in one swing. That's what I've done. Not because I'm brilliant, but because my brain doesn't like to sit still. ADHD throws me into rabbit holes, and I come back with treasure. Let me paint the picture. I started as a tattoo artist. That taught me attention to detail, art, symmetry, line work, understanding skin, and most importantly, understanding people. You don't just slap art on someone's body. You have to get inside their story. Figure out what matters to them, why they're getting that piece. It's deeply emotional. You become a therapist with needles. Then I became a firefighter. Entirely different skill set, right? You'd think so, but actually, same muscle, high pressure, emotional intelligence, split-second decisions, and a strong stomach for chaos. The difference is, in this field, the client's house might be on fire, so the customer service game gets a little more intense. Jump ahead a few years, and now I'm teaching CPL classes in firearm safety. That means understanding law, training people under stress, public speaking, scenario building, risk mitigation, and dealing with every kind of personality. Some who show up thinking they might know everything, others scared out of their minds. Then there's real estate. You've got contracts, negotiation, customer support, branding, local marketing, emotional labor, staging, lead generation. It's like juggling flaming knives while someone behind you keeps whispering, "The market's cooling down. Thanks, Greg." And then toss in 3D printing, laser engraving, parenting, podcasting, business ownership, and wrangling a cat named Frank who thinks she owns the place. And you'd think that these things don't connect, but you'd be wrong, dead wrong. Here's the magic. Each one of those skills makes the other one stronger, because now I can design a logo for a client, engrave it onto a product, help them launch their business, tattoo their branding onto their forearm if they want it, and then sell them their dream home. That's not just stacking, that's creating a full circle ecosystem of services that feed each other. I don't need 100 different clients for 100 different services. I just need 20 people who trust me to do everything, because they know I'll do it well. You don't need to specialize, you need to synthesize. Most people spend their whole life trying to master one thing, and there's nothing wrong with that. But if you're like me and you've got 20 hobbies, a dozen passions, and a pile of YouTube certifications, and half-finished side projects, don't see that as chaos. That's your toolbox. Here's what stacking skills has done for me in business and life. I can pivot instantly. If one income stream slows down, I activate another. Tattoo appointments slow down in winter, boom, firearms class. Real estate's in a lull, time to laser etch some custom merch for small businesses. I stay in motion. I build client loyalty like crazy. People know me from one thing and then find out I can help them with 5 others. I've tattooed someone, then helped them sell their house, then engraved gifts for their wedding, then taught their sister how to shoot. No joke. I stand out. Nobody's trying to copy me because they can't. Not without investing years into building this exact collection of mismatched yet weaponized skills. And you've got your own version of this. Maybe you bake and you also stream video games, and you've got a background in accounting. That's not random. That's a potential business helping other streamers do financial planning while you sell them baked goods with their Twitch logo on it. I don't know, get weird with it. The value isn't in what you do, it's the unexpected combination of what you do. You know what people really want? They want one person who gets it. Someone who speaks their language, who's real, who delivers what they promise, and throws in a little surprise bonus they didn't even know they needed. You don't get that from being the best. You get it from being unforgettable. Stacked skills equal unforgettable. Now here's the advice no one gave me when I was younger, but I wish they had. Don't hide your toolbox to look professional. We've all been taught to package ourselves neatly. Don't confuse people, they say. Pick one thing and stick with it. But for people like you and me, that's the wrong move. Because the minute you downplay your skills, you start shrinking your value to fit someone else's expectations. Don't downplay, demonstrate. If someone asks what you do, don't panic. Don't pick one thing. Just smile and say, I stack skills. I solve problems. I build cool stuff. You got something in mind? Watch how fast people lean in. They might not remember the guy who builds furniture, but they'll remember the guy who tattoos, builds furniture, and made a podcast episode about fire safety while baking a birthday cake. Made the last one up, but I would totally watch that. So here's the challenge. Inventory your toolbox. Make a list of every weird, wonderful thing you know how to do, even if it seems unrelated. Then start looking for ways to combine them into offers, projects, content, and client experiences that no one else could pull off but you. Because when skills collide, when you stop compartmentalizing your talents and start integrating them, you stop being a service provider and you become a brand. And nobody can compete with that. All right, deep breath. Let's talk about something that doesn't get enough attention in the business world, especially in our go hard or go home, hustle till you collapse. If you're not working 80 hours a week, you even want success culture. Let's talk about burnout. Yeah, I know it's not sexy. It doesn't make a good hashtag. You're probably not seeing a bunch of motivational speakers on Instagram going, burnout is my brand, baby. But if you've ever juggled multiple businesses, clients, kids, responsibilities, ideas, and ADHD, fueled hyperfocus loops, then you know how real this is. More importantly, if you're building a personal brand like I am, especially one that relies on your energy, your face, your voice, your creativity, then burnout isn't just a bad day, it's a threat to the whole damn system. Now, I didn't learn this the easy way. I learned it the, hey, let's burn down everything I built and rebuild it from ash like a pissed off phoenix with back problems kind of way. Now, let me rewind for a second. Years ago, I ran my own tattoo studio full time. And when I say full time, I mean life consuming. I was doing the tattoos, managing the artists, handling the drama, fixing equipment, cleaning, running the marketing, dealing with scheduling, all of it. Because if I didn't do it, it didn't get done. And if it didn't get done, I'd spiral into this mindset that I was failing. That studio was my identity. I poured everything into it until I had nothing left to pour. And that's the thing people don't talk about with burnout. It doesn't hit you like a car crash. It creeps quietly. You start by skipping a day off, then two, you stop enjoying the work, you start resenting the clients, you find yourself fantasizing about normal jobs, like stocking shelves or driving forklifts just for the peace of not being needed all the time. And eventually, it broke me. I shut down the studio, I walked away, and I'll be honest, it hurt like hell. Not because I lost income, but because I'd wrapped my entire identity into that business. And when it went away, I didn't know who I was anymore. And here's what I learned. That breakdown made space for a breakthrough. It forced me to reevaluate not just my business practices, but my boundaries. I realized that if your brand is based entirely on being available all the time, creating all the time, delivering all the time, you're not building a business. You're building a bomb with a short fuse. So now I do it differently. I still work hard. I love what I do, but I work smart too. I put the oxygen mask on myself first. And here's how. 1, I schedule rest the same way I schedule work. I block out days where nothing gets booked. I don't care how urgent something feels. If it's my rest day, it can wait. The world doesn't end because I took a damn nap. 2, I learned to say no. And that was a hard one. But I stopped taking every project just because I could do it. If it doesn't align with my energy or values, I pass, politely but firmly. 3, I delegate and automate. You don't have to do everything yourself. I know, but no one can do it like I do. Maybe. But someone can do it good enough while you take care of your sanity. 4, I separate business from identity. Look, I am my brand, but I'm also more than my brand. If the podcast failed tomorrow, or I stopped tattooing, or I switched careers again, I'm still Donnie. I'm still a dad, a husband, a human, and that's important. 5, I listen to the warning signs. If I start dreading something I usually love, I don't push through it. I examine it. Am I tired, overcommitted, creatively drained? Then I act accordingly. I don't wait for the crash anymore. And here's the kicker. Ever since I started protecting my energy, my brand has gotten stronger. Because people can feel when you're authentic, when your work has joy in it, when your posts aren't just phoned in because you felt obligated to be consistent. Consistency is important, but sustainability is essential. Now, let's look at how this plays into branding specifically. If your personal brand is built around you showing up for your audience, your clients, your family, then you need to be well enough to show up, not just physically, but mentally and emotionally too. And let me tell you, burnout branding is obvious. Your posts start sounding flat, your videos lose their spark, you stop replying to messages, you avoid engagement, you feel like a fake in your own business. And if you keep pushing through that, your audience can smell it like a burnt microwave burrito. But when you build a brand that includes boundaries, that gives people permission to do the same. I've had clients tell me it's refreshing to see someone actually take a break and not apologize for it, or you being real about needing time off made me realize I don't have to grind 24/7 either. That's powerful. That builds connection. And in a world full of polished nonsense, real people doing real things in real time is what makes a brand unforgettable. So if you're building your brand, your business, your empire, please, I am begging you, don't do it at the expense of yourself. Take the damn break. Block the schedule. Say no. Go outside. Touch grass, let your brain wander. Give your body a chance to just exist without pressure. Because here's the truth. Rest is part of the work. Burnout doesn't make you a badass. It makes you a broken system, and systems can be rebuilt, but only if the person running them is still standing. So don't wait for the crash. Don't wait for the fallout. Build your brand on sustainable energy. Build it around who you are at your best, not who you become when you're running on fumes. And if anyone tries to guilt you for stepping back, cool, they can build their empire on burnout. You'll be over here building a legacy with fuel left in the tank. You ever met someone who's got everything together? I mean, that super polished, clean cut, always on time, no cat hair on their clothes kind of person? Yeah, I don't trust them either. Look, there's something comforting about walking into a business or a brand and seeing a little realness, a little humanity. Maybe it's the owner's kid yelling in the background during a phone call. Maybe it's a typo in a caption that clearly got written at 11 p.m. while fighting off sleep and a snack craving. And you know what that is? It's trust in action. Because when you're unapologetically human in your business, when you stop hiding the mess, the quirks, the off days, and the outbursts, you don't lose professionalism. You gain relatability. Now, I didn't always understand this. There was a time when I thought I had to put on the show, be the polished version of myself, the hello, yes, I'm Donnie Morrison, professional multitasker, licensed in 6 different careers and totally not winging it on 2 hours of sleep version. But that guy, he is exhausting. And worse, he's forgettable. The Donnie that people actually connect with is the one who says, yeah, I can tattoo that, sell your house, and teach you how to shoot. But I might forget your name halfway through if I didn't eat breakfast. Also, my cat Frank will absolutely try to interrupt this meeting. I've had clients say, you're like if Bob the Builder and Deadpool had a kid. And honestly, I'll take that. Because your brand, your real brand, isn't just your service, it's you. It's your tone, your personality, your values. It's how you recover from a mistake, how you show up on bad days, how you joke through the chaos when your toddler flushes your AirPods and the dog pukes on your Amazon returns. That's the personal touch. That's what makes you unforgettable. Let me give you a quick example. I once had a tattoo client come in nervous as hell. First tattoo, super emotional piece, and I could see it in her eyes. She didn't want some tough guy act. She didn't want to be judged for crying or second guessing her design. So what did I do? I made it human. I said, hey, look, I cried after my first back tattoo. I didn't even know I could sweat through denim, but apparently my body had some surprises in store. She laughed, she relaxed, she trusted me. Because I met her as a person, not a professional robot with a stencil. Same thing happens in real estate. People don't want a perfectly scripted tour. They want someone who says, yeah, that bathroom's the size of a cereal box, but the yard, man, you could raise some goats out here if the HOA don't catch you. You want to stand out in any industry? Be the human that makes people feel comfortable being their weird selves. Now let's be real. This isn't always easy. Sometimes we get scared that being real will make us look unprofessional. Then we'll lose clients. That someone will say, I expected better. But here's what I found 99% of the time. People don't care if you're perfect. They care if you're present. They care if you're honest. They care if you show up. I once had a firearms student who was nervous because she was the only woman in class. So instead of ignoring that energy, I called it out in a kind way. I said, look, we've all seen action movies. This isn't about doing backflips or shooting the bad guys in the dark. This is about learning to protect yourself and not shoot your foot off. If that sounds boring, good. Boring is safe. Boring means you survive. She cracked up, the tension dropped, and you better believe she told all of her friends I was the first instructor who didn't make her feel dumb. That is what personal touch looks like. It's knowing your audience, it's reading the room, it's knowing when to drop a dad joke versus when to shut up and listen. And humor is gold, man. Humor disarms people. It builds bridges. It gives people permission to exhale. I've had consultations where the client said, honestly, I picked you because you made me laugh on Facebook. Not because of my portfolio, not because of my credentials, because of a dumb post I made about how my coffee was so strong it tried to unionize. People remember funny. People remember real. You don't have to be a comedian, but you do have to stop pretending you're a walking LinkedIn profile. Let your weirdness show. If you snort when you laugh, own it. If you're awkward on camera, say so on camera. If you're filming a product demo and your kid walks in yelling about cereal, leave it in there. That's the good stuff. That's the magic. Here's what I want you to take away from all this. Your humanity is your marketing. It's the edge nobody else can copy. It's the reason someone will choose you over someone else who's maybe more polished but feels cold, distant, forgettable. You don't need to be the expert who has it all figured out. You need to be the human who cares. That means sharing your process, even when it's messy, admitting when you don't know something, laughing at your own mistakes, letting your personality live inside your business. The people who get it will stick around, and the people who don't, well, they can go find someone else's sterile, boring ass newsletter. Because the people who stick around for you, the unfiltered, coffee-fueled, mildly chaotic, beautifully authentic you, they're the people who will stay. And you don't need a million customers. You need a few hundred loyal ones who show up because they love how real you are. So give them that. Give them you. Flaws and all, snacks and all, Frank the cat and all. That's the personal touch. That's the power. That's the brand. All right. So let's get one thing out of the way before we even dive in. Starting over isn't quitting. Reinventing isn't failure. Burning it all down and rebuilding it from the ashes isn't a meltdown. It's a strategy. Let's be real. This world makes you feel like if you stop doing one thing, you've given up. Like the only path to success is the straight and narrow one where you pick your lane at 18 and stay in it until they roll you up into retirement with a cake and a cheap watch. But what if your lane sucks? What if your lane was chosen out of survival or pressure or fear, or because someone told you that was the smart thing to do? I've reinvented myself more times than I can count, not because I failed, but because I grew. I've been a tattoo artist, a firefighter, a real estate agent, a firearms instructor, 3D printing nerd, podcast host, and a professional wrangler of both toddlers and tax forms. And you know what? Each time I pivoted, people had opinions. Oh, you're doing that now? Didn't you used to? Is this just a phase? Yeah, it's a phase. It's called evolution, Greg. Here's what I've learned. The people who don't understand reinvention are usually terrified of it. They've been stuck in the same role, the same job, the same identity for so long, the thought of change feels like death. But not for people like us, for people with ADHD or multi-passionate creatives, or anyone who has ever felt like they don't fit in one damn box. Reinvention is how we stay alive. Let me take you back to when I shut down my first tattoo studio. I put my whole heart into that place, blood, sweat, ink, and every ounce of energy I had. But it reached a point where it wasn't lighting me up anymore. The drama, the expectations, the grind, it started eating away at the joy. So I stepped away. And man, the guilt that followed was brutal. And I kept asking myself, was that a mistake? Did I just throw away everything I built? But then something weird happened. That space I created by stepping away, it filled up fast with ideas, energy, and opportunities I never would have noticed while I was stuck in survival mode. I launched other projects, explored new paths, took on different clients, created a life that felt like me again. Turns out that shutting that door didn't mean I failed. It meant I made room for the next chapter. So here's the truth bomb. You are not obligated to be the same person you were 5 years ago, or 1 year ago, or even this morning, honestly. People love to talk about consistency like it's a virtue. And in some ways, sure, it is. But consistent evolution is way more powerful than consistent stagnation. Reinvention means you are willing to look at your life and say, this doesn't fit anymore, and do something about it. That's not weak, that's bold. Now, let's talk about how this connects to your brand. When you build a personal brand, especially one based on you, there's this pressure to keep it locked in, to stay on brand, to not confuse the audience. Screw that. Your audience isn't made of goldfish. They're humans, and humans grow, and they want to grow with you. Think of your favorite creators, entrepreneurs, even musicians. The ones who stayed relevant didn't do it by staying the same. They did it by evolving in public. They shared the changes. They invited people in. They said, hey, I used to be about this, but now I'm feeling pulled towards this other thing. Come along if you want. That's how loyalty's built, through truth. So if your business starts shifting, if your message or your mission evolves, don't panic. Don't delete all of your old posts. Don't pretend your past self didn't exist. Honor them. They got you here. You're just taking the next step now. I had one person ask me, Donnie, how do I pivot without looking flaky? Easy. You don't pivot secretly. You pivot transparently. You say, hey, y'all, I've been doing this for a while and it's been great, but now I'm being pulled in a different direction and I want to explore this, share this process, and invite you to grow with me. Simple, honest, human. No panic, no PR team needed. Now, let's add a little humor because all this talk about change is starting to feel like a late night therapist session. I once told my wife I was going to take a break from tattooing to explore some other business ventures. 2 weeks later, I had a new podcast, an Etsy store, 300 glow-in-the-dark keychains in my garage, and a laser engraver that cost more than our last used car. Her response was, so is this like a chill break? Yes, a Donnie-style break, full of pivoting, coffee, and mild explosions of creativity. But that is the magic. When you stop fearing the pivot, life becomes a choose-your-own-adventure book. One day you're designing logos, the next you're teaching people how to not shoot themselves in the foot. It's all part of the same story. So here's the takeaway. Reinvention isn't flaky. It's strategic. You don't have to stay stuck in a role that doesn't fit anymore. Your audience can handle the shift as long as you take them with you. And most importantly, every version of you is part of the brand. The tattooer, the teacher, the entrepreneur, the guy who's figuring it out in real time. You're not lost, you are becoming. And if you've got the guts to do that out loud, you're not just building a brand, you're building a movement. All right, confession time. Half the stuff I've launched in my life started with the phrase, this might be a terrible idea, let's try it anyway. And you know what? Most of those terrible ideas ended up either making money, building connections, teaching me something important, or giving me a hilarious story that starts with, so there I was holding a soldering iron and a chicken sandwich. The point is, launching messy is better than waiting for perfect. Every time. We're taught to polish, perfect, tweak, plan, rehearse, overthink, replan, wait for the right moment, then maybe test on a few people, ask for feedback, sit with our feelings, redo the whole thing, and finally, after months, release it into the wild where no one notices. Why? Because the energy is gone. You edited the soul out of it. But when you release something while it's still hot, still messy, still honest, still a little shaky, that's when it hits. People don't connect to perfection. They connect to momentum. And momentum doesn't come from over planning. It comes from doing, from experimenting. Let me give you a real example here. When I started this podcast, I didn't know if anybody would listen. I didn't have a marketing plan. I didn't sit down and map out an entire season. I sure as hell didn't build a soundproof studio or hire an audio engineer named Kyle who drinks green smoothies and uses words like compression curve. No, I have a mic, an idea, and some stuff to say and a brain full of swirls. So I hit record. Was it perfect? Hell no. My first episode was 17 minutes and sounded like I recorded it in a basement using a potato. I am in fact in my basement right now. My outline was a bunch of scribbles next to a half-eaten granola bar, and Frank the cat tried to jump on the desk twice. But I showed up, I published it, and you know what happened? People listened. People related. People messaged me saying, dude, it's like you're living in my head. I thought I was the only one who thinks like this. And that is worth more than a polished intro and a studio quality audio. Because here's the secret sauce. Your audience doesn't want perfection. They want presence. They want you. They want you to feel like they're part of something that's evolving, growing, becoming with you. And let's be honest, if you're like me, you're never going to feel like it's ready. You'll always see the flaws, always think it could be better, always compare it to the person who's 10 steps ahead of you with the gear, the following, the support system, and the sponsorship deal. Well, screw that. Comparison is the enemy of experimentation. It convinces you to pause when you should publish. So here's my advice. Make the thing. Release the thing. Fix it as you go. That applies to everything. You want to start a side hustle? Launch a rough draft. Sell one product. See what happens. Want to start a YouTube channel? Post a video with bad lighting and see who laughs anyway. Want to teach something? Host a free mini class with no slides and just talk. People will show up for you. Want to write a book? Start by writing a chaotic blog post and share it. You're not Shakespeare, you're Scrappy. Some of the best ideas in the world die in notebooks. Some of the worst ideas go viral because someone had the guts to post them. Let that sink in. Listen, I once sold out of tumblers that I advertised using a photo I took on my stove next to a pack of ramen. Was the lighting good? No. Was the background professional? Not even close. But the caption was funny, the vibe was real, and the audience felt it. It worked because I moved fast, not perfect. Now, look, I'm not saying never improve. Of course, you should polish things eventually. Level up your gear, get better at editing, learn your craft, but do it in motion. Don't wait until your first draft looks like someone else's 10th revision. You can't learn to swim if you're waiting for the perfect water temperature. Just dive in. Let people watch you evolve. Let them root for your progress. There's nothing more magnetic than someone who's clearly figuring it out and doing it anyway. I mean, have you seen early YouTube videos from big creators? They're trash. Lighting from the side of a lava lamp, audio that sounds like someone jelly into a shoebox. But guess what? They kept going. And now they're legends. Not because they were perfect, but because they started. That's the difference. And if you fail, great. Failure is data. Failure means you tried something, now you get to pivot and try again. You're not a statue, you're a prototype. And if you're building a personal brand, this matters even more because personal brands are built on evolution. If you're only showing people the polished end result, they'll assume that's where they need to start, and that'll scare them off. But if you show them the mess, the process, the stumbles, the experiments, you become relatable. And in the world of branding, relatable beats polished every time. So go start the weird idea, build the half-functioning thing, post the awkward video, print the merch before you have a logo. Create the content before your camera setup is finished. The polish will come later, but the magic is in the experiment. And if anyone gives you crap for not being ready, just smile and say, neither was Apple when they launched the first iPhone, and look where that went. Now go break the perfection paralysis and make some beautiful, chaotic duct tape progress. You got this. All right, let's set the scene. You've got a client call in 5 minutes. Your laser engraver's screaming like it's trying to escape the garage. The cat's yelling because she thinks you've forgotten her existence for more than 3 seconds. And one of your children, probably not the same one who clogged the toilet with socks last week, is now standing in front of you asking if it's possible to put hot dogs in the toaster. Welcome to Entrepreneurship with Children. This segment is called Kids, Chaos, and Keeping It Together. Barely. Because there's no such thing as full control when you're running businesses while also raising tiny humans with zero sense of time, volume, or personal space. I've got 8 kids. Yep, 8. And no, I'm not starting a reality show. I'm living one. And somehow, amidst the literal and metaphorical screaming, I've managed to run businesses, record podcasts, teach classes, sell houses, and design custom-engraved projects without completely losing my mind. How? By fully embracing the chaos. Look, the internet is full of these work-from-home dad setups that look like they came from a Pinterest board. Neat desks, coffee mugs that say hustle mode, a toddler quietly coloring in the corner while the parent types confidently in noise-canceling headphones. That's not real life. That's marketing. Real life is typing an email with one hand while wiping jelly off your phone with the other. Negotiating a real estate deal while a toddler screams, "Mom, he's looking at me," in the background. Having a client compliment your professionalism right after you muted yourself to yell, "Put your pants back on," to a child who's decided it's Naked Thursday. That's the truth they don't put on LinkedIn. But here's the thing. I wouldn't trade it for anything. Because raising kids while running a business doesn't just make you better at multitasking, it makes you bulletproof. So let me break this down for you. 1, you learn to manage chaos like a general in a war zone. No one prepares you for the logistics of parenting and entrepreneurship. There's no manual. You just wake up one day with 2 calendars, 3 alarms, 6 people needing you, and a mental checklist that never ends. But over time, you develop instincts. You can sense a tantrum coming like a weather pattern. You can hear silence and know something's been broken. You can finish an invoice while singing the theme song to Bluey because it calms your 3-year-old gremlin just long enough to send the damn email. You stop being fragile. You get resilient. You adapt. 2, you stop over-glorifying work. Here's something wild. Having kids actually made me better at drawing boundaries with my business. Before, I'd work until midnight because I thought that's what hustle looked like. Now, if I've got a Nerf war scheduled at 6 p.m., then guess what? I'm logging off at 5:59 because that time matters more. Kids teach you what matters. They remind you that success isn't the number in your bank account. It's the look on your kid's face when you show up and they weren't expecting you to. And you know what? That shows up in your business too. Your clients start to feel that. They trust you more when they know you live by your values. You stop chasing every dollar and start building something sustainable, something you'd be proud to teach your kids to do one day. 3, you become a better leader, period. Raising kids is the most intense leadership training on earth. They don't listen just because you said so. They test limits, they question your logic, they force you to explain things with empathy, clarity, and a lot of deep breathing. Now translate that to business. Your team, same deal. Your clients, yep. Your podcast listeners, your social media followers, your community members, all need the same combo of structure, honesty, and flexibility. Being a parent taught me how to lead with both authority and heart, to hold space and hold the line. That's a skill every entrepreneur should know, and parents get a crash course in it every single day. Number 4, you become a master of micro moments. There's no such thing as when I have time once you have kids. You have 5 minutes? Great, you better use it. I've written full ad campaigns while sitting in the school pickup line, designed logos during nap time, recorded podcast intros while cooking dinner. I've learned to squeeze productivity out of the margins of life, and guess what? Those margins add up. You stop waiting for the perfect moment and start making the most of the moment you're in. That's a superpower. And finally, number 5, you give your kids a front row seat to resilience. Your kids are watching, always. They're seeing you chase goals, solve problems, start over, pivot, stay up late, wake up early, apologize, laugh, and keep going. They're learning what it looks like to show up even when it's hard, to build something out of nothing, to fail publicly and keep swinging, and they will carry that with them. I'm not raising employees. I'm raising creators, thinkers, builders, weirdos who believe they can try, mess up, and still succeed. And that means everything. Now look, it's not all Instagram worthy. Sometimes your house looks like a tornado hit a Chuck E. Cheese. Sometimes you record an episode 4 times because someone keeps yelling "but" into the background mic. Sometimes you get interrupted so many times you forget what your point was halfway through your sentence. Like right now. That's actually why I write a lot of this down. Oh, right. Chaos. It is unavoidable, but it is also beautiful. Because in that chaos, something incredible is happening. You're building a business. You're raising a family. You're showing the world that both can coexist, even if it's messy. So to all the other parents out there trying to juggle client calls, baby bottles, marketing campaigns, and macaroni spills, I see you. You're not doing it wrong. You're doing it with heart. And that's the kind of brand that actually lasts. So let me tell you a little secret. This podcast, yeah, it's for you. But if we're being totally honest, it's also for me. This mic right here, this is my therapist. And the weird part is, I don't even have to schedule an appointment or copay with Blue Cross to use it. Because sometimes I sit down to record and I don't even know what I need to say. But I start talking, and next thing I know, I've unpacked 3 years of unresolved burnout, business frustration, parenting stress, and at least one oddly specific story about a raccoon in a crawl space. Podcasting is therapy. Now, do I technically call it marketing? Sure. That's what we tell ourselves to justify the hours spent yelling into a microphone while our cat tries to chew through the mic cable. But under the hood, this thing is way deeper than just content creation. Let me break down how podcasting has become one of the most powerful tools in my entire brand building toolkit. First, it lets you be unfiltered. There's no algorithm dictating what I can say, no 60-second cap, no caption limit, just me, my thoughts, my stories, raw and uncut. That kind of long form, no rules platform, it's rare. It's powerful, and if you use it right, it creates a level of trust that's hard to replicate on any other platform. People who listen to your podcast aren't just glancing at your Instagram reel while they wait for their Chipotle order. They're invested. They're folding laundry, driving to work, sitting in the garage after a long day, choosing to hear your voice. That's intimate. Podcasting builds connection through cadence, tone, awkward pauses, dry jokes, and full-blown rants. You can't fake that. And more importantly, you don't have to. Second, it helps you process in real time. Let me tell you something I've noticed. Sometimes I'll record an episode thinking I'm teaching you something. You know, here's a lesson. Here's how to brand yourself. Here's how to juggle life and ADHD and parenting and side hustles without lighting yourself on fire. But somewhere in the middle of recording, I realized, oh, wait, This is actually the advice I needed to hear. That's the gift of talking it out. Podcasting makes you slow down and articulate the stuff you usually keep bouncing around your brain like a pinball. You have to say it. Once you say it, you own it. It's self-reflection disguised as content. And when your audience hears that, they don't just think, wow, this guy knows his stuff. They think, holy crap, I thought I was the only one who felt that way. That kind of vulnerability builds community, not just clicks. Third, it's ridiculously versatile. This podcast isn't just an audio journal, it's a hub. It feeds everything else. I repurpose segments for social media clips. I turn topics into blog posts, email newsletters, and memes. I quote myself. Yes, I quote myself because sometimes I actually say something decent. I build deeper relationships with clients because they've already heard my voice before they ever shake my hand. And you know what the wildest part is? People will pay you because they trust your voice. I've gotten tattoos booked, real estate leads, product sales, and even CPL students because someone listened to an episode and said, I like the way you think. That's branding magic. That's the power of showing up, not with sales pitches, but with stories, stumbles, and a little self-deprecating humor. Now let's get real for a minute. You don't need a perfect podcast to get this kind of result. I started with a basic mic, my computer, and a closet full of hoodies to muffle the echo. My editing is awful. My outlines are scribbled notes next to a half-empty coffee cup. Sometimes I forget what I was talking about halfway through and had to just improvise my way out of it. But it still works. Not because it was polished, because it was me. And that's what I want to tell you. Whether you're thinking about starting a podcast, YouTube channel, blog, TikTok, or interpretive dance channel on Vimeo for some reason, you don't need to sound like Joe Rogan or NPR. You don't need the smoothest transitions or Grammy-level production. You just need to care. Care about your message. Care about your audience. Care about showing up. People will forgive bad audio. They won't forgive boring. So be human. Be messy. Be honest. Be yourself. And if it also happens to be good marketing, bonus. And if nothing else, do it for you. Start the podcast, write the post, hit record. Not because it's trending, but because you've got something to say and a story worth sharing. You never know who's listening in their car thinking, damn, this guy gets it. If nobody listens, you still showed up for you. That's a win. Let's talk about a dangerous little phrase we all know too well. You should sell those. Now, sometimes that's great advice. Sometimes it's the beginning of a whole new chapter. A successful side hustle, a profitable brand, a thriving community. But sometimes it's the first step in turning something you love into something you resent. Let's call it what it is. Monetizing your joy can be a double-edged sword. On one side, yeah, it's amazing to make money doing something you love. That's the dream, right? But on the other side, the moment something becomes a business, it stops being just yours. Deadlines creep in, expectations build, customers ask for customizations. Suddenly, you're not creating for joy. You're producing for other people. And if you're not careful, that can drain the soul out of the thing that used to light you up. I've been there more than once. I've had so many hobbies evolve into businesses that my hobbies now run in fear when I glance in their direction. Tattooing started as art therapy, became a full-time business. 3D printing began as a fun experiment. Now I've got an entire mini product line. Laser engraving, I bought the machine just to play around. Yeah, okay, now I'm doing mugs, signs, dog tags, branded gear, and a million last-minute Etsy orders. Podcasting started as a venting platform, and now I'm writing full 60-minute scripts like a caffeinated squirrel with a computer. Now, don't get me wrong, I am grateful, but I'd be lying if I said it didn't take some serious trial and error to keep the joy alive in these ventures. So here's what I've learned. You can absolutely turn hobbies into income, but you have to protect the joy like it's your last slice of pizza at a family reunion. Let me break that down into a few survival tips. 1. Not every hobby has to make money. Seriously, not every hobby has to make money. Some things can just be fun. Some things can be yours and only yours. You don't owe the world a product every time you're good at something. You can draw just to draw. You can sing just to sing. You can knit hats for ducks if it makes you happy. The moment everything becomes a hustle, nothing feels sacred. So keep one hobby completely unplugged from your income stream. That's your joy battery. Protect it. 2, start small and stay flexible. If you do want to monetize a hobby, Don't go all in day one. Let it evolve. Test the waters, do a few commissions, sell a couple of products, keep it casual. That'll give you time to figure it out. Do you still enjoy it under pressure? Can you scale it without burning out? Do people actually want what you're making? Sometimes you love painting frogs in sunglasses. It doesn't mean there's a market for frog sunglasses paintings, and that's okay. You're allowed to pivot or pause or go right back to painting just for yourself. 3. Price your work based on reality, not insecurity. And this one's big. One of the fastest ways to start hating your hobby is to undercharge for it and realize you're basically making $3 an hour and losing sleep over it. Your time has value, your energy has value, and your creativity has value. So if you're going to sell your hobby, treat it like a real business, not a charity, not a favor, not a side project you're ashamed to charge for. You're not just selling a product, you're selling the hours it took to learn that skill. And if someone says it's too expensive, that's fine. They're not your audience. Number 4, set clear boundaries. Business you and hobby you need to have a long, awkward conversation about boundaries. How many hours per week are you willing to spend on this? What kind of orders are you willing to take? What requests will you politely decline even if it means losing a sale? If you say yes to everything, you'll be buried in burnout by Tuesday. Set rules, stick to them, protect your peace, and never ever let a client convince you that your art needs to be changed because their cousin didn't get it. Number 5, give yourself permission to step back. Sometimes, even when you do everything right, the joy still slips away. You wake up one day and realize you haven't created anything just for you in months. That thing you loved now feels like an obligation, a burden. And when that happens, don't force it. Take a break, pause the shop, shut down commissions, tell people, hey, I'm taking some time to create for me again. You're not quitting, you're healing. Big difference. And when the joy comes back, you'll feel it, and so will your audience. Let me give you a quick story. A couple years ago, I was making emotes for a fellow Twitch streamer. It was fun. I loved doing it. I loved helping. And then it started getting demanding. Adding in, can you make me an overlay? What about an animated overlay? How about a new logo? Can you make me a new logo? Until eventually, I just dreaded even doing them at all. And what used to be fun became stressful. But then the orders piled up. The requests got weird. Can you engrave my aunt's obituary on this 20-ounce mug with flaming skulls and Bible verses? I mean, maybe, but should I? Eventually, I dreaded every new order. What used to be fun became stress. So I stepped back, I paused the store, took a couple months to mess around with designs just for me. No deadlines, no customer notes, no flaming skull requests, and guess what? I found the fun again. Now I still take orders, but on my terms. Limited batches, clear timelines, and I only say yes to the projects that actually excite me. That balance is life-saving. So here's the bottom line. Yes, turn your hobby into income if you want to. But protect the spark that made you love it in the first place. Keep some creative space just for yourself. Say no when you need to, charge what you're worth. And if it stops being fun, hit pause, recalibrate. You're not a machine, you're a maker. And your joy is part of the product. Let me tell you something that took me way too long to learn. You don't need to build your brand. You just need to say it out loud, because chances are your brand already exists. It's in how you talk, how you show up, how you solve problems, what lights you up and what pisses you off. The real problem, you're either too scared to own it or too busy overthinking it. And I get it. We live in this world where branding sounds like something only tech CEOs and Instagram influencers with matching beige aesthetics do professionally. You start thinking you need a 14-page business plan and a mission statement written by a committee of emotionally intelligent robots. But the truth, your brand is already written in your life. You just got to own it. Let's take me, for example. I didn't sit down one day and say, I shall be a multi-hyphenate business owner with a rugged dad next door vibe and a podcast that feels like equal parts therapy and comedy. No, I just started talking. I talked like myself. I posted like myself. I worked like myself. And eventually people started saying, man, I love your energy. It's like you're the ADHD uncle who actually gives a damn. And I thought, well, yeah, that's kind of exactly it. It wasn't something I invented. It was something I noticed. The way I speak, the way I write, the way I make people feel, that's the brand. And guess what? You've already got a version of that too. You don't need to reinvent the wheel. You just need to describe your wheel out loud so that other people can hop on for the ride. So let me walk you through this. 1, stop trying to sound professional. This one's going to ruffle some khakis, but hear me out. If you water down your personality to fit into a version of professionalism that looks like a corporate training video from 2006, your brand will be forgettable and fast. Professional doesn't mean boring, it means consistent. You can be professional and still say hell yeah. You can be professional and still crack jokes. You can be professional while wearing Crocs, drinking iced coffee, and yelling let's go at a cat. Just be authentically you, but on purpose. Because when your audience hears your voice and says, this person gets me, you've won. Number 2, figure out what people already associate with you. Not what you think, what they experience. Here's a quick exercise. Ask 5 people close to you, friends, clients, coworkers, even your favorite customer, this question. If you had to describe me, or if you had to describe what I do and how I do it, what would you say? You'll start hearing repeat words, stuff like you're reliable, you're funny but real, you make things feel less scary, you explain stuff in a way I actually understand, you show up even when it's chaotic. Guess what that is? That's your brand voice. That's your marketing copy. That's your about page. If enough people experience you a certain way, it's time to stop fighting it and start amplifying it. Own it. Say it out loud. Put it in your bios, your caption, your email signatures, whatever. Because people aren't buying what you do, they're buying how you do it. Number 3, your brand is your patterns. Take a look at what you consistently say, post, and care about. What topics do you rant about? What do people thank you for? What kind of content do you create naturally? What problems do you solve in your sleep? That's not random, that's your lane. And I'll tell you mine. I speak fast, I'm sarcastic, but I mean what I say. I care about people doing better for themselves, for their families. I've got ADHD, a million jobs, and I run my mouth about all of it. I failed hard, got back up, and I try to turn every mess into a story someone can use. Boom. That is the brand. And if you follow me for any amount of time, you already know what I'm about because I don't filter it through what will sound most appealing. I just say what's real. You've got your own version of this. You just might not have claimed it yet. Number 4, say it like you'd say it to a friend. Too many people try to write like their 8th grade English teacher is grading it. You know the voice, all stiff and polite and weirdly detached. Drop that. Your audience isn't a boardroom full of strangers in suits. It's people who want to connect with you. So write your posts, record your podcasts, send your emails, talk to your clients like you're talking to your friend over drinks. Not sloppy, just real. That's where trust lives. Because at the end of the day, people don't remember perfect scripts. They remember the person who sounded like someone they'd actually want to hang out with. Step 5, get louder about the parts that are already working. You don't need a new strategy, you need volume. You already know what people love about you, now double down. Lean into your stories, lean into your voice, lean into the way you naturally help people without trying to sell something every 2 seconds. Then take all that and say it louder. You don't need a viral reel or a million followers. You just need a clear signal. Because if you've been quietly crushing it behind the scenes, but never actually claiming your voice online in your branding or even how you talk about your business, you're not invisible because you're unworthy. You're invisible because you're quiet. Start saying it out loud, all of it. Say what you do, say why you do it, say who it's for, say what makes you different, say it like you mean it. Not just once, but over and over until people start saying it back to you. That's when you know your brand is real, when people quote you to you. So the next time you sit down and try to build your brand, remember this, you're not building it from scratch. You're uncovering what's already there. You're turning the volume up on what you already live out loud. Because when you stop waiting for the perfect logo or tagline and start speaking like you own the space you're standing in, your brand won't just land, it'll stick. Let's take a minute to reframe the entire way we think about business, life, and success. Because the world tells you that business is the final boss, the big fight, the mountaintop, the thing you're supposed to build your life around and defeat with flawless focus and a +10 productivity sword. But for folks like me and maybe you, business is just another side quest. A big one, important one, sure, but just one stop along the wild, glitchy, ADHD-fueled video game we call life. Let me explain. You know, in those open world RPGs, Skyrim, Elden Ring, Fallout, where you're supposed to save the world, but instead you spend 3 hours collecting mushrooms or building a house in the woods for no reason? That's me. That's my business life. There's a main quest, yeah, but I live for the side quests. One day I'm tattooing, next day I'm laser engraving, next I'm building a podcast episode in my pajamas while the cat knocks pens off the table. Then I'm showing a house, teaching a CPL class, or sketching a sticker idea for the studio. Somehow it all works. Because for people like us, business isn't the end goal. It's a vehicle. It's how we explore the map, how we learn new skills, how we meet cool characters, and how we find meaning in all that madness. The sooner I stopped seeing my business as a destination and started treating it like a tool for exploration, my entire mindset shifted. So let's break this down. Side quest number 1. You don't have to finish anything to level up. Traditional thinking says start a business, scale it, sell it, retire, boom, you win. But what if that's not the point? What if the real win is learning something new, making a little money, and then using those skills to go do the next cool thing? I've started businesses that made money, some that didn't, some that I burned down just for the experience of rebuilding better. None of them were failures. They were side quests. Each one leveled me up. Taught me about marketing, design, communication, systems, burnout, and my own damn limits. That's the game. You don't need a 30-year plan. You need a map and a willingness to move. Side quest number 2. You get to pick your path and change it. The world loves to box us in. Pick one niche, stick to one title, climb one ladder. No thank you. If I'd stuck to one identity, I'd still just be Donnie the tattoo guy. Nothing wrong with that. But I'm more than that, and you are too. Side quests give you the freedom to change paths without guilt. I've been a tattoo artist, studio owner, 3D printing nerd, firearms instructor, firefighter, podcaster, dad, community builder, and now whatever weird mix of that I feel like today. And if tomorrow I want to be a hot sauce mogul or open a pirate-themed Airbnb, that's the quest now. You're not flaky for shifting paths. You're playing the game the way it was meant to be played. Side quest number 3. You can earn XP even without gold. Not every project needs to be profitable to be powerful. Some of the biggest wins in my life didn't show up in the bank. They showed up in the skill tree. I ran a community project once that made me $0, but it helped me meet people who ended up becoming clients and collaborators. That's XP. I launched merch that flopped, but it taught me how to set up e-commerce systems for the future, and that's XP. I tried coaching for a hot minute, hated it, moved on, still XP. Your worth isn't based on the money you make. It's based on how you grow through the game. Side quest number 4. You meet the best characters along the way. Let's be real. Some of the best parts of running a business aren't the wins. It's the weirdos you meet on the path. The clients who become friends, the friends who become collaborators, the people who DM you after hearing a podcast episode and say, hey, I think you're living in my brain. Community is built on shared quests, shared struggles, shared laughs. You don't meet those people by hiding on the main path and grinding alone. You meet them when you wander, explore, and start showing up. Honestly. Side quest number 5. The reward isn't the treasure, it's the story. Nobody remembers the spreadsheet you filled out on time, but they'll remember the story about how your laser engraver caught fire while your kid was teaching your cat how to play dead using chicken nuggets. That's a real story, by the way. Stories are the treasure, and every business idea, every failed launch, weird client, or last-minute order is a side quest story you'll laugh about someday. When you start seeing your business as a story generator, it gets way more fun. Even the hard stuff, especially the hard stuff, but it means something. Build your life, not just your business. If you're someone who's constantly reinventing, pivoting, trying new things, you don't need to feel broken or unfocused. You're not doing it wrong. You're just not playing a linear game. You're building a life through quests, stacking XP, learning new skills, making friends, telling stories, having fun, and getting better, louder, braver, and weirder with every turn. And the best part, there is no final boss, just the next quest. So go chase it. And if anyone tells you you're unfocused, just look at them dead in the eye and say, nah, bro, I'm leveling up. Here's something a lot of people need to hear. You don't have to be the best. You just have to be memorable. We've all heard the phrase, good is the enemy of great. But here's a better one for folks like us. Forget great, be unforgettable. Because the truth is, you can be technically perfect, best service, best product, best value, and still get overlooked if nobody remembers you. And on the flip side, you can be a little messy, a little weird, a little you, and people will come back over and over again just because they felt something. I've seen this firsthand across everything I do. Tattooing, I've seen artists way more technically skilled than me struggle to book clients. Why? Because they weren't memorable. They were clean, quiet, precise, and forgettable. Meanwhile, I'm cracking jokes, telling stories, asking about people's weirdest family members mid-line work, and offering snacks like a traveling uncle with a tool belt. Guess who got the referrals? It's not about being the best, it's about being the one they remember. Stop chasing perfection and start chasing presence. Nobody remembers the perfect person who doesn't make mistakes and never shows emotion. You know who we remember? The barista who sang your name like you were on The Voice. The tattoo artist who offered you candy and told you why that design is going to age like milk. The realtor who actually listened when you said, I'm stressed, and then brought you a donut and didn't talk numbers for 10 minutes. The podcaster who told a personal story that made you go, I thought I was the only one who felt that way. Presence is greater than perfection because presence sticks. Perfection fades. Leave footprints, your own kind. Your brand, your business, your energy. It should leave a trail behind it. Not a mess, not a marketing funnel, but a feeling. After someone works with you, listens to you, watches your content, what lingers? Laughter, clarity, comfort, relief. That was chaotic but helpful and somehow motivating, and I didn't cry this time. Awesome, that's a brand. Leave you behind in every interaction. Because when people feel something, they remember. And when they remember, you win. Own your quirks like they're features, not bugs. You know what really makes someone stand out? Not being the same as everyone else. I snort when I laugh sometimes. I go off on tangents. I forget what I'm saying halfway through a sentence and then circle back like a squirrel who left his keys somewhere. I give nicknames to my projects. I overthink everything. And I've been known to turn a client consultation into a half therapy, half Taco Bell recommendation session. And I own all of it. Because those quirks, they're my fingerprint. And fingerprints are way more powerful than resumes. So what's your fingerprint? Do you cuss too much? Do you use dad jokes like a defense mechanism? Do you get overexcited about fonts, crystals, spreadsheets, or medieval siege weapons? Good. Use that. Infuse it into your brand. Your voice, your content, your process. You don't need to be a copy of the best. You need to be you, turned up to 11. Package your personality, not just your product. Let's say you and someone else offer the exact same thing. Same price, same product, same skill level. What makes someone choose you? Your packaging. And no, I don't mean your logo, your website, your color palette. Although if you're using Comic Sans, we might need to have a talk about that. I mean your vibe. The experience of buying from you, talking to you, learning from you, laughing with you, and trusting you. That's what makes people remember. That's what makes them come back. So your website shouldn't sound like a tech manual. It should sound like you. Your emails shouldn't be robotic. They should feel like a conversation. Your content shouldn't be generic. It should be so you that people see it and say, oh, that's got to be Donnie. Make every piece of your business a mirror of your personality. Because personality doesn't just attract people, it keeps them. Stop trying to impress and start trying to connect. You don't need to dazzle people, you need to get them. Understand their fears, their goals, their weird thoughts, their pain points, their inside jokes, their late nights, screw it, I'm starting a side hustle moments. If you speak to that, you'll never have to convince anyone to buy from you. They'll already trust you. Memorable brands don't sell, they resonate. So be consistent, not constant. You don't have to be everywhere. You just have to be recognizable wherever you are. If someone sees your name, your photo, your post, they should immediately feel something familiar. Like, yeah, this guy, I like this guy. That only happens when you own your voice and repeat it across everything you touch. So if you're funny, be funny everywhere. If you're dry and thoughtful, be dry and thoughtful everywhere. If you're the weird uncle who teaches tattooing and gun safety while raising 8 kids and making emotionally aware podcasts in a garage full of glow-in-the-dark tumblers, lean into that. You don't have to be the best. You just have to be undeniably, unmistakably, unapologetically you. So here's the recap. Don't aim to impress. Aim to be remembered. Let your quirks lead the way. Be present, not perfect. Build connection over credentials. Leave people feeling something and they'll come back for more. Your job is not to outshine everyone. Your job is to be a brand people can't forget. Even if you're not the best, especially if you're not the best. Because in a world full of perfect, a little bit of real goes a long way. You ever try to build something by yourself and think, damn, this would be way easier if I had like a clone or at least someone who remembered where I left my damn coffee? Yeah, me too. So let's be honest. Being a solo operator can feel like being the one guy at the gym trying to lift the bench press and record a fitness reel and answer emails and spot himself. Spoiler, something's going to get dropped. Probably your phone, possibly your mental health. So let's talk about something that completely changed my business, my creativity, my sanity, and honestly, my entire life. Community over competition. It's not just a catchy slogan for Etsy shops and inspirational mugs. It is a blueprint for survival, for growth, for getting through all the chaotic, what the hell am I even doing moments? Because here's the truth. You don't grow alone. You grow with people, and not just followers or subscribers. You grow with friends, with collaborators, with cheerleaders and challengers, and people who know you well enough to say, hey, I love you, but this ain't it. You don't need a network. You need a crew. I'm going to break it down for you. Step 1. Collaboration is not weakness, it is strategy. There's this toxic myth in entrepreneurship, especially in creative spaces, that if you work with others or ask for help, you're somehow less legit. Like you have to do everything alone to prove you're serious. No, man, that's not serious. That is exhaustion cosplay. Look at anyone who's built something big. There's always a team, a crew, a group chat full of jokes, memes, feedback, and last minute, does this make sense or am I overthinking it? Panic messages. Collaborating doesn't mean you're not capable. It means you're smart enough to know that the game gets easier when you play with others. Step 2, find people who get your brand of chaos. Not everyone's going to vibe with you, and that's okay. Your job isn't to connect with everybody. Your job is to find the people who speak your language, the ones who don't need a 10-minute disclaimer before you show them your weird, wonderful, messy ideas. In my case, that means people who understand that ADHD is not a quirk, it's the engine. That showing up imperfectly still counts. That some weeks I'm on fire and other weeks I'm just on fumes. I don't need people who pretend to be perfect. I need people who can text me, "You alive?" and follow it with a meme and a link to a tool that'll make my life easier. Those are my people. Who are yours? Look for the ones who are going to celebrate your wins, big or small, offer ideas without trying to control your vision, show up when you're not trending, laugh at your dumb jokes, respect your boundaries. If you've got 2 or 3 of those people, you're already rich. Step 3, give first, ask later. You want to build a community? Start by showing up for others. Not in a fake networking event kind of way, but in a real, hey, I see you and I think what you're doing really matters kind of way. Share someone's post, comment on their work, buy their product when you can, refer them when you can't. Support isn't about transactions, it's about trust building. You'd be shocked at how many doors open when you're just consistently kind, curious, and real. Community isn't something you build, it's something you nurture. And when you give without keeping score, people notice because most folks are tired of shallow performative connection. They want real ones. Be that. Step 4, you don't need to be better than anyone. One of the best things I ever did for my mindset was to stop seeing other creators and business owners as competition. You're not competing with someone else's tattoo shop, merch line, podcast, or social media feed. You're competing with burnout, with disconnection, with the urge to give up. And those aren't battles you fight against other people. They're battles you fight with other people, side by side. Someone doing something similar to you, they're not the enemy. They're proof that it can be done. Instead of asking, how do I beat them? Or you want to ask, what can we build together? Share tools, share stories, share your space. There's room for all of us. Step 5, build your weird little corner of the world. You don't need a massive platform or a giant following to have an impact. You just need a room full of the right people. That's what I'm doing with this podcast. That's what I'm doing with my businesses, my clients, my projects. I'm not trying to be viral. I'm trying to be valuable to the people who need exactly what I bring to the table. And that means building a weird little crew of side questers, squirrel brain dreamers, and creative misfits who get it. People who show up, support each other, and build more together than they ever could alone. So if that's you, you're already in the crew. Welcome. So my final thought on this: business is easier, better, funnier, and more sustainable when you don't try to do it solo. You don't need to be the lone wolf. You need to be a part of the pack. Find your people, support them, let them support you. Because the goal isn't to outshine everyone. The goal is to light each other up. All right, real talk time. How many times have you said this either out loud or in your head? I'll do it when things slow down. Go ahead, count. I'll wait. Yeah, that's exactly what I thought. We all say it, we all believe it, and deep down, we all know it's a lie. Because, spoiler alert, things don't slow down. They change, sure. They shift, they move from one kind of chaos to another, but that magical window where everything's calm, clear, and convenient, it doesn't exist. Life doesn't hand out blank calendars. It hands out appointments, dirty dishes, surprise bills, weird client requests, sick kids, car trouble, laundry, and a brain that decides now is the perfect time to hyperfixate on organizing your pen drawer instead of launching that thing you said you'd launch. And if you're waiting for things to calm down before you take action, you're going to be waiting forever. So let's flip the script here. Instead of waiting for calm, create in the chaos. Build anyway. Launch anyway. Write, post, record, plan, sell, connect anyway. Because messy momentum will be perfect timing 100 times out of 100. Let me give you a real example. When I started this podcast, I had zero free time. None. I was juggling tattooing, 3D printing, real estate, my CPL classes, raising kids, and pretending I understand how to fold fitted sheets like a functioning adult. I thought I needed time, space, quiet, a fancy studio, a content calendar. What I actually needed was to just hit record and start talking. That's it. Start, messy, loud, tired, busy, scattered, hungry, whatever. Because here's the secret. Motion creates clarity. Waiting for clarity before you move, that's like expecting your GPS to show you the whole road before you take a single turn. It doesn't work that way. You get direction as you move. And yeah, it's going to be awkward at first. I'm sure some of you have heard my first podcast. You'll record stuff that doesn't sound great. I'm sure you guys can hear my teeth clicking. You'll launch things with typos. You'll post things and get crickets. You will feel like an amateur. You'll worry about being judged. But here's the thing. Judgment does not kill dreams. Inaction does. You can learn from a mistake. You can pivot after a launch. You can revise, refine, rebuild, but you can't improve what doesn't exist. You got to get that rep in. You got to take the first step before it's convenient. So let's address the real reason we say when things slow down. It's not about time. It's about fear. We're afraid we'll fail, afraid we'll suck, afraid we'll be seen, afraid we'll have to keep going once we start. So we say, I'll do it later. But later never comes unless you make it come. I've had clients wait years to start something they could have launched in a weekend because they were waiting for the right mood, the right month, the mythical season of life where the kids are quiet, the job is chill, and their energies align with Mercury's left pinky toe. Look, alignment is great, but you don't need it to begin. You need grit, you need caffeine, you need screw it, let's try energy. Because the world doesn't need more people waiting, it needs more people trying. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying push through the burnout. I'm not saying ignore your mental health. I'm not saying grind yourself into the dirt. What I'm saying is this. If something's on your heart, if it keeps popping up in your thoughts, if you've been saying one day for too long, start. Even if it's small, start. Even if it's weird, start. Even if it's unfinished, start. Start it while things are still messy. Because when you build in the mess, you learn to adapt in real time. You stop needing ideal conditions and start becoming resilient. And resilient creators don't just build cool things, they build lasting things. Here's your permission slip. Launch the business before you have a business card. Record the podcast before you have the perfect mic. Sell your art before you have a polished website. Offer your service before your pricing sheet looks like it was blessed by the gods of Canva. Write the book before you know how it ends. Whatever your thing is, do it now. Not when the kids are older, not when work chills out, not when your confidence magically arrives in the mail. Now, because life won't slow down. But you can choose to speed up in the direction that matters. You're not behind, you're just paused. Hit play. Even if it's at 1x speed, even if you're half caffeinated, slightly sweaty, and emotionally fragile, especially then, because that's when it's real. Let's land this one with a mantra. Write it down, stick it on your fridge, tattoo it on your forehead if you want. I mean, I know a guy. I don't need more time. I need more courage. More time. I don't need more time. I need more courage. And that is the truth. Because you've got the skills, the experience, the passion. You just need the push. So this is your push. No more when things slow down. No more someday. Today is the day. And you're the one. Now go make something happen. All right. If you're still with me after all of that, first of all, bless your ears. This episode was a beast. It was messy, tangent heavy, probably more caffeinated than recommended by any licensed physician. More than anything, it was real. Because that's the point of all of this. This is not about pretending to be a guru. It's not about selling you a dream wrapped in marketing, buzzwords, and productivity porn. It's about showing you what it looks like to build something honest from the middle of the madness, from the chaos, from the same messy, overbooked, under-rested reality you're probably living in right now. If you've learned anything today, I hope it's this. You're allowed to be a work in progress and still be building something worthwhile. You don't need a 5-year plan. You don't need all the answers. You don't need to be the best at anything. You just need to keep showing up. Show up as the tattoo artist who also happens to know how to teach firearm safety. Show up as the ADHD dad trying to juggle 8 kids, a laser engraver, and a podcast mic that keeps falling over. Show up as the weird mix of everything you've learned, everything you've survived, and everything you're still figuring out. Because that version of you, that's the brand. That's the business. That's the reason people will remember you. Not because you have a perfectly curated aesthetic, but because you made them feel something. You gave them permission to be a little more themselves, to start even if they're not ready, to speak even if they're nervous, to launch even if it's messy, to grow even if it means letting go of who they used to be. That's powerful. And if all this chaos, all this side questing, all this squirrel brain momentum leads to one thing, let it be this: freedom. Not just financial freedom, but freedom to be fully you, to build something that doesn't drain you, to work with people who get you, to live a life that feels like it actually belongs to you. Because at the end of the day, business is great, branding is great, side hustles are fun. But what really matters, what really lasts, is the version of you that didn't give up. The version of you that kept pushing, kept creating, kept laughing, kept learning, even when life didn't slow down and the path didn't make sense. That's the legacy. That's what your kids will remember. That's what your audience will feel. That's what you get to be proud of. So thank you for being here, for listening, for caring enough about your own journey to walk through mine with me. This isn't the end. This is just a checkpoint. We're not done evolving. We're not done building. We're not done being loud, messy, passionate, imperfect, and unstoppable. This is just the middle. And from here, we're bound for more. This has been Squirrels, Side Hustles, and Sippy Cups. This episode made you laugh, made you think, or made you feel a little less alone. Share it with someone who needs it. Subscribe, leave a review, or just shoot me a message and say, hey, that hit. I'll be back next week with more chaos, maybe a little bit shorter, more strategy, and probably more stories about my cat. Until then, keep hustling, keep evolving, and most of all, keep being you. See you next time.
Chaos in the backyard, coffee's gone cold. Kids in a costume, 6 years old. Business calls, ADHD brain. Laser focus, then a squirrel again.